I'm on mute. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much. We're off to a great start. Thank God it's only a live stream. Welcome back to the show. This is The Hoop Show, and we are going to review the preliminary finals that just occurred over the weekend. And on this episode, I am joined by my normal co-host, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Paul James. Welcome, Paul. How are you feeling?
Look, I really enjoy the music that goes on at the beginning of the show. He really feels like I'm about to stroll into the Night Cat or into Cherry Bar or something like that and hit the Terps real hard. So I'm all about it. Now, if only I could kind of rid myself of the kids for a night or two to actually make that happen.
Well, if you can, yeah. So I was just telling our guest, who's soon to be on the show, Rach Danderfield, that you do have some parental duties, and that sometimes sets you back a little ways. But
come in real hot.
Nevertheless, we've got a show to get onto, and so thank you for joining us, everyone. If you haven't already, please think about subscribing and liking the video. If you are watching live, feel free to comment in the chat. I think, Paul, you're on comments duties as per normal. You're happy to post a couple up there?
Looks like I've already got students that have tuned in tonight.
There you go. Hello to Mr. James's students out there, or Paul, whatever you go by. I'm not sure. Very good. Before we get the show started, though, Paul, I did want to give a little shout out to my dad, who's not been well lately. He's got some health issues. So, if you are watching online or you're watching this a bit later on, I hope you're feeling a little bit better soon. And it's your little one's birthday, Paul. So happy birthday to her in a few days' time as well.
Both my kids have birthdays this week. My son tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
Monday, and then my daughter on Wednesday. So turning 5 and 3.
You're going to be very busy in the next couple of days, mate. All right, Paul, shall we?
Not great timing.
No. Let's have a look before we get Rachel on. Let's have a look at the results from the weekend. So Friday night, it was a 1-point game.
Results.
Oh no, not great. Collingwood just got up over the Giants. Oh goodness me! Somehow they hung on. And on Saturday, last night, the Lions, I thought this one was going the way of the Blues at one point, but the Lions came charging home and won the game 79-63, I should say. Mate, unbelievable. Look, I thought
the GWS and Collingwood game was the most disappointing at the lot, of course. The way it played out, but the actual net result as well kind of sucks a little bit in that regard, but
yeah. All right. Well, mate, take us through the Collingwood game, if you will. Collingwood GWS game. An absolute 1 point. Would you call it a thriller? I don't know.
Oh yeah. I mean, it can be the lowest scoring game of all time, but if it's tight, then it can end in a million different possible ways. And look, to Collingwood's great credit, they shut the game down incredibly well with that minute to go, just playing rugby scrum after rugby scrum. They did a really, really good job of that. But the net result, 8-10-58 to 8-9-57, Collingwood's favour. 2 to McStay, won't be playing next week. 1 to both Myercheck and Jamie Elliott, with 34 disposals to Geordie De Goey, who was, in my mind, absolutely the best player, at least for the Pies, but arguably on ground. And baffling that they just could not find a way to get him on the field for those final 8 minutes of the game, I think it was in the end, roughly. Nick Dacos with 28 kind of flatters him a little bit because his disposal was pretty off. He looked pretty rusty, but he'll obviously be better off for the run. Scotty Pendlebury just doing what Scotty Pendlebury does, 25 disposals there, and just class and poise, especially when things got really heated. He was always the cool head. Massive credit to him. Whilst for the Giants, Toby Green with 2, probably should have been 5 for the number of head-high things he wasn't given, especially later in the game. But anyway, more on that soon, I'm sure. Brown with 1, Lloyd with 1, and then 34 disposals to Kelly, Tom Green with 31, and Lockie Whitfield with 26, and a few near decapitations because the Pies were going after him real early on.
Weren't they? It was a strange game. They were the way the umpires were calling it, and A lot of conspiracy theorists out there thinking it's all about getting Collingwood into that grand final. Now, someone who was at the game, Paul, is with us now, and I believe she's got a furry friend with her as well. I'm just going to bring her in. Rach, welcome to... Rach is a regular on this show. Can we call her a regular now? Welcome, Rach.
Long-time listener, third-time caller.
And I always get this wrong. Is it Patch or Paish?
This is Gizmo, so it's neither. Gizmo is actually he's our resident GWS supporter, so he's not really keen on hanging out. He's very keen to leave. But Paish is a Gold Coast supporter, so she's actually out celebrating the VFL win from today.
I was going to say, because you've come from Icon Park today, am I right? And you've been sampling the hot dogs on offer there, and you're not too pleased. I saw on the socials that I think Mummy Dearest might have paid for your hot dog, but yeah, not great.
Oh, I was very disappointed. It was stale, it was cold, and it was $8. I cannot justify $8 on a football hot dog. Apparently I can if my mum's paying. So yeah, it was a big day of sun and brews, and unfortunately the local boys didn't get up, but it was good to see Charlie Constable get to have his premiership. Yes. That was nice. But yeah, big day.
Pretty typical of all things coming out of Icon Park at the moment, really. Disappointing.
Pretty much, yeah.
We'll get to the Carlton game, but you were at the MCG, am I right, Rach, on Friday night to watch Collingwood and GWS wearing your colours and as much orange as you could fit on. Take us through it. Now, you went on the march? Is that right?
Yeah, so I went on the Tsunami March from the Coopers Inn, which was just such a fantastic experience, and it made me a little bit jealous that sort of we didn't get around that sort of stuff last year. I know it's been done a few times this year, but it was a really welcoming environment, and the vibes were really good. There was no negativity or anything like that. Even when Collingwood supporters would come past, it was all love. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Good.
Good. You had 100,000 people there. What was the ratio like? I mean, on the TV, it was clearly Collingwood, it felt like about 95,000 Collingwood, but at the ground, did it feel that way?
So myself and Burgerslaw from Twitter, we bought GWS memberships during the week. They had a special finals membership. And we were just kind of like, wouldn't it be funny if we bought these? And wouldn't that be silly? And then it just kind of turned into a little bit of the joke went a bit too far, and we were members, and then we were actually sitting in the GWS members bay. So the vibes around us were immaculate, but towards the end of the game, the Collingwood chant you couldn't avoid it regardless of who was around you. It was very loud.
Which in typical Collingwood supporter fashion is kind of ridiculous considering how close it was. Like they could have blown it at any point in the last couple of minutes there, and yet they're still bellowing like they do. It's only a shame that they weren't playing against us, really, because they have a great knack of going too early on the crow when it comes to that song against the Cats and then pissing the game away, really. So,
well, it used to be, I feel like it used to be their thing of when they knew that the game was won. That was kind of like their gold jacket. They do it after every goal now. It's just they do it whenever. And it's power to them. There was a lot of them there.
You're insufferable.
Just making noises and it's weird. It's their thing. Good on them.
Yeah, and I know that all supporter bases have their good people and their bad apples, but the hostility as we were leaving the ground was palpable. It was I wouldn't say I felt scared, but I felt very uncomfortable. Had a lot of people yelling abuse at me and things like that, and it just took me back to last year when Geelong very comfortably beat Brisbane. The last thing on my mind was getting into anyone's face. And I've never had an environment like that where it's been so negative for no reason. But yeah.
You don't kick them when they're down. Like you lost by a point. I mean, it's like when we, you said beat Brisbane and beat Sydney. Like, you beat a team by 10 goals or more, or you beat them by a point. I mean, they're hurting for different reasons, but there's no need for it, especially with GWS. I think everyone wants GWS to have some level of success. Maybe not go all the way.
Certainly everyone except the Collingwood supporters did on the weekend. So
yeah. I think the thing that's always been ingrained to me, especially by my mum, is that winning's enough. Winning is winning. That's what you want to do. It's not about who loses. It's not about who you beat. Sorry, my cat's just chewing my desk. It's not about who you beat. Winning's winning, and winning is enough. So,
yeah. What did you think about? While you're dealing with the cat at your ankles there? What did you think about some of the umpiring decisions from, you're in the GWS area and, Paul and I were watching it, and I think a lot of other neutral supporters were watching it thinking, oh my goodness me, GWS are getting the raw end of the stick on this one, or whatever the expression is. But it didn't. Toby Green had his neck ripped off, and there's a lot of other non-decisions paid as well. What was it from your point of view and the people around you, I suppose?
I don't think it influenced the game, regardless of what should have been called. It was there for GWS to win. But the Toby tax is real. I don't think you can deny that he's done a lot of crappy things for a lot of years, and he's still paying for that. And I don't think, all right. I don't think it should be that way. But that's just kind of what happens. And I think we saw that similar with Jack Ginnivan last year. It's like, if you duck for free kicks, when you do get taken high, the umpire is not necessarily going to believe you.
I didn't get that.
Sorry. I'm a mess. Sorry, I've got everything going on.
We love it.
Look, Toby obviously was the recipient of a few, and he was obviously going to be under some pretty intense pressure all night regardless. I don't know necessarily he paid the Toby tax. I think a lot of, there was Connor Iden, for example, who copped it right near the end as well. There was quite a few across the entire game, and I mean, there's been a bit of commentary off the back of both games this weekend of the whole putting the whistle away line of thinking. And look, I'm subscribing to it. I don't usually like agreeing too much with what Kane Corns has to say, but some of his comments around this have been largely, I'm sure there's probably been some embellishment in a few areas as well, but they've been largely on the money, because it's this frustrating thing where we've got a set of rules for one circumstance and a set of rules that are not being enforced to the same degree in another. And I get there's anxiety potentially around, well, what if I blow the whistle and I get it wrong? But also, it's the same thing when you're not blowing the whistle. Like, there's several scenarios they got wrong, and it's affected both teams at different points. I'm not saying it's all GWS. There were certainly some calls throughout the game that Collingwood should have gotten that didn't as well. GWS just happened to be at fairly influential moments. And there were poor calls in the game last night as well, and the game was pretty well blown out and done by early in the third quarter, I would say, despite Carlton giving it a little bit of a mini crack again at the end. I don't like the whole differential in standards when it comes to the standard season versus the finals itself, because it makes it impossible to predict. It makes it an impossible job for the umpires, and it's already an incredibly hard job to then have a different set of standards that we're working to, and the scrutiny that then comes from it is just, it's insane to me. Just stick to your guns the way you've been doing it all year, because at least everyone knows exactly what to expect.
And isn't that the reason why we brought in an extra umpire in the first place? Like, there's 4 umpires on the ground. I don't believe that none of them saw a lot of what was going on.
I mean, it's part of the rationale. Obviously, that getting the right call was a big part of it. But as I learnt from chatting to Razor when he was on Behind the Play a few weeks back, it was also about kind of umpire preservation as well, with the number of kilometres and intense high-level running they were having to do. Having a fourth to be able to share the load was obviously a big part of it too. But certainly in terms of having correct calls, it should improve that. And yet we see evidence from time to time that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Rachel? You may not have noticed this live, but maybe in the wash-up, the Nick Dacos tackle, I think on Brett Daniels, might have put him into. Well, no, he didn't KO him, but the the people behind the camera decided that he needed to go off and have a concussion test or head injury assessment or whatever they call it, and couldn't get back on the ground at the end. And I don't know if that impacted on the game too much, because he's generally one of their better players. He's probably one of those guys. You say Brett Daniels, who's Brett Daniels? Never heard of him, but he's had a great final series, and
he's a gun.
Him not to be able to get on, along with clearly DeGoey, but for different reasons. I don't know if I don't know if it was the right decision or wrong decision, but it doesn't really sit comfortably with someone who's not at the ground making those calls from a studio somewhere. It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and you'll never know sort of what impact it would have had on the game. I'm someone who takes that sort of stuff very seriously. So I think if there is an inkling of doubt, I think that someone's brain is more important than a football game.
100%.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, just I don't know if
certainly
they got it
unfortunate
exactly
timing, and
right, but I don't know if
certainly
they got it
unfortunate
exactly
timing, and
right,
I'm
but
glad
yeah.
we're going.
Yeah, they might just have to make a couple of tweaks here and there, but I completely agree. And I'm probably one of those people that says maybe don't have club doctors, but anyway, that's probably a whole other
Yeah.
conversation. Rach, really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have to get you back for a fourth episode at some point. I was really hoping GWS would get up because Paul just loves the song. He loves the big sound,
Mate,
and
we're gonna do
was
it anyway.
hoping.
We've got to.
I was.
Направление? Какое направление?
Какое направление музыки играть?
Well, there's a big sound from the west.
That'll do.
Oh no!
I can't play the whole thing because they didn't win. So, Paul, you got your little taster there. Rach, sincere, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and we hope to get you back again soon sometime.
Thanks so much for having me, fellas. Have a good rest of the show.
Will do. Take care.
See you, Rach.
Paul, any other thoughts on the Collingwood GWS game? I mean, yeah.
Look, I guess following up on your
that.
Dacos and Brett Daniels,
Yeah.
thing, like I'm glad Dacos is not facing scrutiny for the whole thing, and I'm glad it kind of got tossed out because look, he drove him in the back. And it should absolutely be an in the back free kick, and I think that was a mistake on the umpire's part. But in terms of suspension, the only reason he's there for a scat test in the first place was because he couldn't protect himself, couldn't brace his fall, and that wasn't because of what Dacos did. It's because Pendlebury totally independently grabbed his arm to try and prevent a handball. And so you combine the two events, and he kind of ate a bit of dirt, and it was an unfortunate result for him. But I certainly don't blame either of the Collingwood players in terms of the actual test itself. The umpire made a poor decision in not offering a free kick, but the actual incident. I'm glad Dacos is not facing anything for that. His performance overall was pretty mediocre. We need him to get a bit more game time, apparently, for the most likely Brownlow medalist that's going to pop up tomorrow.
Well, who knows who's going to win that one? I will ask you at the end of the show. If I remember, you will remind me, I'm sure. I want to get your thoughts on who's going to finish on the podium in the Brownlow. I think just probably one last thing from me on the game. Toby Green after the game in the rooms, really, really emotional. And I probably looked at the guy a little bit differently. And maybe I'm a bit harsh on Toby over the years, and I think he sort of carries on a little bit too much. And maybe he's turned the corner a little bit, and just the emotion that you could see on his face, and just him, a bit teary, and really hurts. And thankfully, we haven't lost a prelim by a point. We lost that semi-final to Sydney, which I'm sure you remember quite well, but it still burns. But losing by a point in a prelim, could you imagine anything worse?
Yeah, prelim is probably the worst time to taste that feeling. But look, I've kind of always had a bit of a liking for Toby. I've not necessarily liked some of the acts that he's, whether it's, leaping and kind of sticking the foot out when he's going up. And so some of the behavior was a little bit rubbish. But as a football, and you could see there was a good core there, and he just needed to find something to, and it looks like, just maturity has struck at the right time, and, pair that with the leadership of being the captain. And it's been incredible for him. So good luck to the guy as far as I'm concerned. And it was you don't want to see anyone in that sort of state, but of course there does have to be a winner and a loser, and especially in those sort of circumstances, it's heartbreaking if you're on the losing end, and I don't blame it. It's really good to see that how much it matters. Yeah,
there's no guarantees of getting back there. We'll just look at Geelong. We are a Geelong YouTube channel. We're expecting, a lot of people were expecting Geelong to go back to back, or at least make the grand final, and we weren't within QE of it. So there's no guarantees. Everyone starts next season 0-0, and probably takes no form into it, other than the lessons that you learn from campaigns past. Other than that, all right. Well, before we get on to the next game, Paul, we did put the call out through the week for anyone who's enjoying what we're doing on the show. If anyone wants to get in touch with us and be a part of what we're doing on the Hoop Show, feel free to send us a message in the DMs, or there's an email, I think, somewhere in the notes as well. Get in touch with us one way. Carrier pigeon, if that's how you roll. We'd love to hear from you. We're looking to grow our team a little bit more in 2024. Now, I'll ask you again, Paul, do you want to share the news about this big fish that we've got lined up? We did talk off camera, but
let's
do you want me to drop the graphic of the big fish that we've got lined up in the next couple of days?
Yeah, drop the graphic.
I'll let you talk to it.
once I can see it on the screen, Steve Hocking, head of the Cats, former big wig of the AFL. He's coming on behind the play this Wednesday. This Wednesday, he's going to be joining me for a chat. We're going to try and get that uploaded online for people pretty promptly after that, as a bit of a precursor to the grand final, something for people to kind of chew on before the big day itself. We'll get to reflect on 2022, the year that was, a whole range of other things from Steve's career, and cast an eye forward as well. It's going to be a really interesting chat. I'm really looking forward to having the guy on the show, and it's going to be an incredible opportunity for us too as a platform. I'm really stoked to get it. I promise I won't screw it up for you, Ben.
Don't screw it up. Be nice. Ask some hard hitting questions, but don't embarrass the guy. I want to know how the stadium's coming along. I drive past it every now and then, and look like the sections of the roof are starting to get added every day, and not every day, every few days. So it's very exciting
Steve,
times.
How's the steel? Is the steel going well?
Hopefully, we've got the right manufacturer now. Oh, good. So that is a big one. We're very excited about it. And we'll definitely drop that episode. We'll get that in the bank, and then we'll drop that in the lead up to the grand final. So whether it's Thursday or Friday, we'll see how we go. But that is our plan at this point in time. All right. With that out of the way, let's have a look at the next game. The other prelim that happened, Collingwood versus, no, we've done that one. Let's look at the Brisbane versus Carlton game.
We could not have a week go by without one of the graphics going wrong. We can't have a week. Somehow.
It's almost like we have to do it every time. We have to get through these things. But I think you and I have proofread this, and we are happy with how it looks on the screen. So the Brisbane Lions 69 to Carlton 79. Sorry, to Carlton 63. A 16-point win there in front of 36,000. Pretty much packed Gabba there. Really, I don't think it can fit much more in than that. But there's very much a 50-50 crowd. Interesting to hear the Carlton crowd at a Brisbane game. I mean, I don't think the Brisbane fans appreciated it a hell of a lot. But look, overall, I don't think there was any massive standouts for Brisbane, and maybe jump in once I've got through some of the stats. But Joey Danaher, they were all good. I think they were all every single one of them was fantastic on the night. Actually, there is one.
There's two.
Kitty Coleman. We can't. I'll come back to him in a second. He's not showing up on the stat sheet, but he was absolutely incredible. But Oscar McInerney, the couple of goals there, and Link McCarthy. Former Geelong boy, Link McCarthy, absolute star, and we'll be getting right behind him on the weekend, I'm sure. Maybe you won't. I don't know. If you turned your back on him because he left Geelong, maybe. I don't know.
No. I mean, look, he's going to have our support because he doesn't play for Collingwood. So
there you go.
Sorry, Swoop.
The Berry man with 24 touches. Dunkley, first year at the Brisbane with 23, and Lockie Neal with one shoulder in operation at the moment. We'll get onto that. But with the 23 on the Carlton side, Harry Mackay, I'll get it right this time. Actually, I thought he went okay. 2 goals, 2. Like he always does. He misses some really easy ones. He kicked some goals that I was sitting there watching and said to my partner, he's missing this. He's absolutely going to miss this. And he just dobs it. I'm like, okay, prove me wrong. And then he misses the next easy one. So, that's the way it goes. Jack Martin comes in. He kicks 2 goals, 1. And Paddy Cripps, felt like it was a bit of a down game from Paddy, and we'll talk a little bit about how the game went shortly. But Walsh, absolutely fantastic with 33 touches. Oh, unbelievable. 13 for Cripps. So, I don't know. He couldn't get into the game. Sam Walsh, 33 touches. McGovern, 24, and Newman with the 23. So, interesting. But let's talk about Kitty Coleman. Let's get started with him. How was that one of the finals games of all time? I mean, his disposal, the way he moved the ball, his intercept marking, he was everywhere. I couldn't believe it. It was like, you cannot stop this bloke at the moment. And he doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but he's the reason they won that game.
Kind of. I mean, I think he's an important one. I think actually him and, look, I don't like praising the guy because he's always a bit of a dick. But Harris Andrews.
I thought he was going to say Zorko there.
No, I don't like. He played a good game. I wouldn't quite pop him up in that sort of tier for this particular match. But no, Harris Andrews also, especially in the first quarter when Carlton were just white hot. Harris Andrews was the only one that kept them potentially in the game, and they still kicked 5 in the first, 6 in the first.
Yeah.
He's the only reason that wasn't 8 or 9 goals in the first quarter, because Carlton were electric, and some of his really important spoils and just enough body on a contest to break even was huge. And then once, Brisbane, the rest of the team started to kick into gear. And of course, Kitty Coleman, as we discussed, he was able to take a bit of a step back. But at least we're really fascinated with, I guess, McStay, and we'll talk more about the grand final itself later, I'm sure. But with McStay out, that will free up. I get like Harris Andrews has really thrived as being like a bit of a Tom Stewart, being able to float a little bit more and play the intercept game. And with going into a game with Carlton, he was going to have to stick on a defender, especially because you had Payne out as well. It was going to have to be 1-on-1, and he handled himself really, really well. Well, now he's going to get that freedom against the Pies because it's really only my check in terms of tall timber for them to focus on. So I'm kind of curious to see what comes to that. But again, more on that later, I suppose. But yeah, Kitty Coleman was unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you know what was unreal? I mean, you spoke about the Blues hot start, 5 goals straight. I thought this one, the Blues fans at Icon Park and at the game would have been just absolutely frothing at the mouth with that start. And I thought, oh, goodness me, Brisbane's going to choke it again. But after that, it's all Brisbane, really. I'll tell you what I really liked, though, even before the game started. And I don't want to get too political on this show, but I absolutely loved the Welcome to Country. I love that bloke who does the Gabba games. He is a cracker. I don't necessarily like Aussie, oi, oi, but he finds a way to build a bridge, doesn't he? So I love that. I thought that was
especially
fantastic.
Considering the backdrop to the week when it came to the Welcome to Country at the AFL as well. With obviously, and I mean he's he's a legend of the Cats, but Sam Newman's comments over the course of the week and they're just completely off base and a bit ridiculous. But for it to be handled so classily on the Friday night. Just not addressed, just, did a fantastic performance there at the G, but then obviously this layer of entertainment to the whole thing, but also, again, still deep respect through the Welcome to Country on Saturday afternoon or evening, twilight, whatever. It was just really, really well handled by all parties.
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned Lockie Neal's shoulder. He had, I don't think he even bothered getting scans. I think he just said, that's fine. I'm all good to go next week. He'd probably get jabbed up or something like that and run out there again. But it did look a bit worrying there. I think he might have got that little, was it a stinger or something like that late in the fourth or in the third, somewhere around there. It came good. But look, Brisbane after that first quarter, they just absolutely had the game. It was like a different team. I didn't know what was going on. Carlton just didn't have the answers. But that's, I think, if we were doing a review of Carlton's season, we'd probably say they've learnt a lot this year, but they've still got more to learn. And I think the way Brisbane came at them, they just didn't know how to respond to it. And unfortunately, that was the end of their season. Another year down the track, they probably would have done a few things differently and maybe stood up and thrown another punch or two. But just they couldn't find a way.
Yeah, they was pretty listless from that point onwards, really. All credit to, and obviously you've shouted him out through the stats already, but all credit to Sam Walsh, who really, had it not been for him, it could have been a lot worse in the end, I think. Did an amazing job out of the middle there. So all credit to Sam Walsh. But other than that, just no one really fired from that point onwards. And the conversation has rightly been directed at Charlie Curnow just a little bit, based on his finals output. What's it been? I think 3 goals across the three games or thereabouts. So.
What did Gary Ablett Sr. get in 1989? Like 27 goals, something like that.
Yeah, something. Now, look, obviously different eras and those sorts of things, but
clearly,
3 across an average of 1 a game when you're the Coleman medalist. It's a poor finals performance.
No, look, he had some good moments for sure, but just was, not in the game enough. Really, didn't impact at all, and yet it's not always the forwards' fault. I think it was.
But and we touched on this when we were talking about the end of season kind of Coleman race between Tex and Charlie. Let's not lose sight of the fact that both players kicked 20 goals on West Coast. Like they beat up. Now they absolutely beat up on the lower rung teams and inflated their numbers significantly. This is not some. I don't want to be too harsh on Charlie or Tex or anyone else, but like this was not some outstanding season from either of them. It was they beat up on an unbelievably weak team. It was just a Coleman winning season. But honestly, you take that out, and all of a sudden, I think our best forward is Larky, really, in the comp this year.
Well, I rated him pretty highly early in the year. I did have Curnow to win the norm, not the norm, the Coleman. Sorry, but I did think Larky was going to have a pretty good year. It'd be interesting to see the stats where you take out the West Coast games.
Lucky
from the
wins.
Coleman.
The stats have already come.
Really?
In.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, again,
You're
you
on
take
it.
20 goals off both Tex and Charlie, so they fall well behind at that point.
Well, one of the winners on the night for Carlton was in the form of Blake Acres' hair. He somehow found a way to get a hair follicle on a ball and got it through for a point somehow. I don't know if you saw that one, but it was the review. The review from the Arc saw a little glancing blow to one of his hairs on his head. So thankfully, it didn't affect the result clearly, but that's the way it was. What did you think of the final siren? Apparently, it's still going at the Gabba at the moment. It hasn't been able to figure out a way. I don't know if it was an over enthusiastic timekeeper. It was very, very pro Brisbane, or
Bash it.
He smashed it and it's busted. I can't depress it.
They have a rough time with all things power over there, from power outages to the inability to switch the power off the buzzer after it's gone. Like they don't know what they're doing up there. I know things are a little bit different up north, and they do things a little bit stranger and kind of talk a bit differently and think a bit differently and don't adhere to daylight savings and a whole range of other things that Queenslanders do wrong. They also like rugby. But yeah, apparently they don't know like basically how to use power either. So
they know how to win at the Gabba, though. That's one thing. They've won 13 straight this season. Unbelievable performance. But unfortunately, that isn't where grand finals are played, Paul, which is probably a good segue to looking ahead to the last Saturday in September. Here we go. Collingwood versus Brisbane Lions at the MCG. Before we get into the game, real quick, who's winning this game?
Oh,
real quick, come on. I'll go.
I'll go Brisbane.
I'm going to say Collingwood. I have no. There's reasons why I'm saying there's a good reason to go with Collingwood, and there's also a good reason to go with Brisbane. One reason to go Collingwood is Brisbane just never win at the MCG.
Their most recent match in Melbourne at the MCG has been a win, though. So they've kind of broken that little curse now.
1 in 15. 1 in 15 at the MCG.
The most recent one.
Most recent, yeah, fair enough.
I
Who'd
think
they play?
I can't remember. It was they probably made it real hard against a team that was incredibly lowly. But might have been the Tigers.
Maybe
something about that sticks out. I think.
Essendon.
But anyway, I think the McStay one is like that injury. I think is huge for Collingwood. They don't have a really obvious replacement for him at the moment, and as much as he's not, I mean, the sad state that is him right now, though, leaving Brisbane to go to Collingwood to chase the premiership, and then both teams play in the grand final, and he misses out with a knee. I mean, there's an irony there. There's a sick irony to that, really. But
it is a shame.
I feel for the guy, but I think it's going to be hugely important as well for the Pies. I think his absence, to my point before about Harris Andrews, frees Harris Andrews up unbelievably, and I think he's going to have a huge day as a result.
Now, a reason why people in the chat and watching this one might agree with you that Brisbane will win is because they've beaten Collingwood 6 times in a row.
Oh, really? Is it that bad now?
It's that bad. So, yeah, well, a lot of it's probably through the COVID era up north and in other places and all that. But they've beaten Collingwood 6 times in a row. I think you've got to go all the way back to 1989 when the 2 grand finalists, one had a winning run of wins like Hawthorn over Geelong. I think Hawthorn had won 8 in a row before that 1989 grand final. So, yeah, Collingwood comes into this game against Brisbane at a venue that they should be fairly confident at, but against an opponent that wouldn't be too confident about. So 6 in a row. I don't know how you picked this one. I've gone Collingwood. You've gone Brisbane. Wouldn't be
20 years also since the last time these two played in the grand final.
Yep.
Went Brisbane's way
and it went Brisbane's way those 2 times as well.
All about it. I'm all about it.
Are they ready?
I just don't know the Brisbane song as well as the GWS one, so we won't be kind of getting any dances going and that sort of thing this time. But
no, we'll have to cue something. We nearly had you. I was so close to getting you staring down the camera because for those that don't know, I did put the call out on Twitter the other night saying if GWS get up, I want Paul to sing the big sound from the west of the town straight into the camera. But thankfully, you were spared from. I don't know if you've got a good singing voice, Paul. I'm not sure, but maybe you do.
I had already recorded it off the during the game. I'd recorded it so that I could just hit publish when I needed to.
Do the auto
Instead,
tune.
it has now been deleted and removed from my deleted items. So
Well, save it. Oh, so not even for next year, you'll have to re-record it.
no, I've
later,
purged it completely.
What's your thoughts on the Brisbane Fitzroy away strip that they tend to wear in the Melbourne games? Are they going to roll with that, or are they going to wear the traditional Brisbane Lions outfit? What do you think?
I hope they go the Brisbane Lions outfit. As much as obviously there's a deep respect that should be shown for Fitzroy and those sort of things, I think they can do that in other ways. Let's acknowledge them as the Brisbane Lions for this day. They are the Brisbane Lions right now. They are not competing as Fitzroy, or the Brisbane Bears for that matter. And so let's do it and do it the way they are right now. But then obviously, yeah, they can acknowledge Fitzroy in a host of different ways on the day.
Yeah, Dr. Duff and Schmertz in the chat says North Melbourne won the previous 5 encounters before Adelaide beat North Melbourne in the 1998 grand final. Great stats there. Thanks, Dr. Duff. Apologies if you don't like me shortening that. Yeah, look, a spare a thought for Will Ashcroft going into this one as well. Future Cat, Will Ashcroft, did his ACL, I think it was, when we played him up there. Unfortunately, he's going to miss out on, it's pretty hard to make grand finals. Ask Max Holmes about that. They don't come around all the time, and you don't want to miss them because you might only get one shot in your career. Unfortunately, he's going to miss, which sucks. Absolutely sucks. And look, there's McStay's missing, and there's a bunch of other guys that, John Noble for Collingwood, who's been in their best 22, 23 all year. He's not getting a look at when the whips are cracking. It's a bit of a shame. There'll be probably some umpires that get dropped too, mate, because I don't really we love Ray. Thanks for coming on the show, but some questionable decisions.
Well, to be fair, Ray wasn't one of them because he's back.
No, can't blame Ray.
So bring him in. Bring him in.
Who's going to actually come in for the Pies, do you think? Do you think, clearly they've got to replace McStay, but is there a like-for-like replacement, or is it, no, different team, different, we're going in with a different structure? What's the plan? You're the Brisbane, sorry, you're the Collingwood coach. What are you doing? What's the go here?
I need to bring up their list because I'm drawing a blank right at this very second. I've already made my way to their list. So as I quickly scroll through, and I'm doing a very quick skim here. Like obviously, I think one of the more natural things is to consider how they might use Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox, and that one of them, they may not be benched all day. It might be you go ruck and then you go rest at full forward or something like that to try and still stretch the Brisbane defence and make your Harris Andrews accountable. But the thing for Brisbane as well is that Payne might well be back. He was, he missed this week, but it sounds like it was pretty close. So they bring another key defender back in as well. That could change things up there. Billy Frampton's an option in terms of maybe what, they can bring, toss him into defence and then send Jeremy Howe forward, which has worked for them at different points as well. Jeremy Howe more than knows what he's doing as a forward. So that's an option for them as well. But other than that, Ash Johnson, I believe, is injured at the moment. So he's... Yeah,
I don't think he'll get back. Yeah. There's Billy Frampton. Taylor Adams has got to come in.
Duff as well. And again, sorry if we're butchering it. Nathan Kruger was mentioned. I'm not sure if he was fit, but Ginnivan starting. Ginnivan, makes sense to maybe start him. But... Yeah, they've got a problem. Yeah. They've got a big problem here.
It's going to be.
But I think how they use the rucks is probably the starting point. To be honest,
I think
does Taylor Adams come back?
Well, I think they They take the risk. I mean, it's a Geelong show, so bringing it back to Geelong for a sec, and we mentioned his name before, but Max Holmes, we didn't take the risk, and he was right to go. So will Collingwood take the same approach with good old Tay? I don't know. It'd be a shame if he missed because he deserves it.
I think you need to bring him in.
Yeah, I think they'll roll the dice. I think they will. I think they'll do it. Does Brisbane roll the dice on a Jack Gunston?
Ooh.
Daniel Rich, right? Strike a line through his name. I don't think Daniel Rich is coming in, but
Jack Gunston, I think you do.
Yeah, grand final experience. I think you do. I think there's going to be
Jack Gunston comes in. But then who do you leave out though? Like they didn't have any injuries, did they?
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think there's going to be some heartbreak. I think someone's going to get a tap on the shoulder.
It's not like their forward line is lacking in potency, to be clear. I mean, their forward line is still one of the strongest in the competition. So I'm just double checking their lineup now. I mean, they had the forward line last week was Archie, Danaher, Rayner, Cameron, Hipwood, and Zach Bailey. Like none of them deserve to miss.
No.
Link McCarthy obviously on the bench as well. I look at the bench and you see the likes of Devon Robertson, the rig, Link McCarthy, Kitty Coleman, and Jasper Fletcher. None of them deserve to miss out. So then you're looking, this is a very. It feels like Gunston should come in, but at the same time, I look at that and go, I don't see any obvious names come out either. So
Do you mess around with the winning formula? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week in the lead up to the grand final. A very interesting few days, and there's some sad stories clearly,
Lions
but
was
there's
the sub too. Lions was the sub for the Lions as well. So
it could be a little bit of heartbreak, but don't know. So you're going Brisbane. I haven't changed your mind on that. I don't think you've changed my mind as well. I just don't trust Brisbane at the MCG. I'm not confident as a Collingwood supporter going into this game, though, and having lost the last 6 against Brisbane. Not confident at all. I just hope it's an absolute cracker, mate. The weather gods are smiling as we speak. They are saying it's going to be about 28, 29 on grand final day.
it is looking beautiful.
So I'm all about I want the Bears to win. The Bears. I'm going with the Bears theme, by the way, on grand final day, just out of respect for the Brisbane Bears of old. So I have some gummy bears and a few things like that on the cup on the coffee table. Give me some ideas or something in the chat. Let me know. So you got any ideas for bear related foods for grand final day? Mate, anything on that game before we move to the AFLW game to wrap the show up?
No, let's get to the girls.
Let's do the girls. What a win, hey? We are absolutely flying. The Cats defeated.
You did not get this one right.
Oh no! What did I do? Oh no!
Your graphics an absolute mess. The scores are wrong, and
take it off.
Take it off. The wrong side.
Thankfully, there's only 5. Thankfully, there's only 5 people watching it live.
Let me quickly bring up the stats for you, so we got all that correct. Oh mate, you're having a rough one. Fixtures, come on, AFL site, hurry up.
Don't fix it.
No AFLW. Either way, like the interesting thing for the Cats. So there we go. 5-12. 42 to the Power, 11-4, 70 to the Cats. So we blew them away in the first half again, and that was fantastic. But from there, I don't know. It was a bit like the game against North again, where we just fell away. We let the opposition in and gave them a chance, and we just weren't as clean. Our defense is, I think, a little bit vulnerable at the moment. They're not really firing on all cylinders. But and she was meant to be joining us for the show tonight, but things didn't quite work out. The likes of Spud, Katie Spud Sermon, fantastic in terms of delivery inside 50. Nina Morrison with 30 plus disposals. Amy Mack, same deal. Georgie Briss-Park. It's like the midfield was delivering it so well into the forward line that kept us. And then you've got the likes, obviously, of Chloe Shear kicking 4. That they ensured that when we went forward, we were effective and like hit the scoreboard well. Same with Jackie Parry as well. But the defense is a little bit of a problem there at the moment.
Yeah, well, the structure is the defensive team is a bit of an issue, but I'm loving Claudia Gonjaka, loving what she's putting out there in 2023, and a bit of a nod to Meg Mack as well. 50 games in of AFLW, what a champ, captain of the club. Absolute treasure for the Geelong Cats. We love having her in there. And g'day, Holden. Just saw you in the chat before. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us on the Sunday night. It was great to get Becky Webster back. It's the first game of the year. She really made a difference. Absolutely tore it up. Getting the ball kept following her around. It was crazy. One of our favourites, Paul. First game of the year, Brooke Plummer. We love Brooke, don't we? And I can't believe it. She fired out 3 handballs. I was joking with my mates from the chat Cats and said, let's have a drink every time she fires off a handball because we know she loves to kick it. And she was like 9-1 or something like that last year, I think, from memory. But straight away, she's just bang handballs. Like she's trying to prove a point or something like that. So I loved. She didn't get a stack of it. She had 10 touches, but
she only played 56% game time too. So
but she looked great when she was in the squad. Yeah, think we're going to go okay with her this year. Hopefully she keeps her spot on the side. I just think we look a different side with her in it. And yes, we're a little biased because she came on the show and we love her and all that. But genuinely, I think she's that X factor for us that we need. And I think she's only going to get better. She's very, very young. So she'll come in. I want to keep playing her. I think she's great. Chloe Shear, we all know. Everyone loves Chloe Shear. She's leading the, I don't know if they call it the Coleman or whatever they're calling it, but she's leading the goal kicking with one or two other players as well from other clubs. But she's an absolute champ as well. Georgie Prasparkas,
who did a pretty good job of shutting down Aaron Phillips too, with only 15 disposals for the game.
Who? No, just joking. She's an absolute legend of women's football, Aaron Phillips, and they should name the MVP medal after her when she's all said and done. Georgie Prasparkas, leading tackler in the comp. Well, earlier this afternoon, that may have changed since I put my notes together, but she's leading the comp in tackles. Correct me in the chat if I've got that wrong. What about? I don't know if you saw or saw the highlights of Nina Morrison. She laid a bit of a dodgy tackle on Janelle Cuthbertson. She might be looking at a week or two or 20% of the year, which is just crazy. Unfortunately, I think the penalties are a bit too harsh considering the season's so short.
Look, I saw it, and it's certainly a dangerous one. I'm just poking around to see if there's any info, because we know that with the men's, if there's a suspendable offence, we tend to know the next day at this point.
Yeah, we do.
But I have not seen as of yet any reports about suspensions or anything from the AFLW yet.
They don't report AFLW very well. So,
well, I'm in the dedicated AFLW section, and that's
no.
There's nothing there yet, but
and no crack on the journos covering AFLW, but it's just overall there's just not a lot of.
And no, sorry, Georgie's not leading the stat anymore either. By the way.
Oh well, there you go. It doesn't matter. She will be. She will at the end of the year. Don't worry about that. From the other side, from the opponent side, unfortunately, Indy Tahu, I think that's how you say it, did a knee, which is a real sad one. I mean, it's sad in the men's comp as well, but as I said, 10 games in women's comp, you do an injury and it's the whole season's done and probably half of next year as well. And who knows if you're ever the same player again. And it just sucks. It absolutely sucks. So it was nice to see a few of the Geelong girls get around her and give her a pat on the back and all that. But it's a bit of a shame. But Paul, back to Geelong for a sec. And we talked about, there's some good players that came through, and we always put the poll out every week. Who's the best player on the ground? And this week it was reasonably close, but the fans went with Nemo. Nina Morrison absolutely killed it. She was everywhere. She gave off a handball to Prez as well when she could have had a shot at goal. So she was absolutely the star on the day. I love seeing a new face on the Roll of Honour, Paul. I absolutely love it. I want to see more cats on there. I think in the men's we might have had 10 individual players on the Roll of Honour in the men's game, but no, I think we've got 3 now. Georgie Prasparkas has been a bit of a hog, but guaranteed she'll almost be back there next week.
Look, Amy Mack hasn't showed up yet. That's only a matter of time because
it's a matter of time.
She's right up there with Georgie as our absolute best. Did Chloe Shear get a gig? Can you bring the
I'll bring it up again.
Yeah,
round 2 for her 5 goals.
Oh yeah, for her 5 goals, good. But obviously, we bat pretty deep, so it's only a matter of time, I'm sure.
But we've got a big game coming up on Thursday, against Melbourne, who are on a absolute tear at the moment. 13-game winning streak for them. There's nothing stopping the Demons in the AFLW. I don't know what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to pull out a miracle to beat them. I think we will.
By 59 points, so.
We need a scalp. They absolutely killed the Hawks, but and we love it when the Hawks get smashed. Even in both comps, it doesn't matter if it's men or women. We absolutely love it. Melbourne, there's nothing stopping them. But I think they're coming up against a force in Geelong, and Geelong's ready for a big scalp, I reckon, in the AFLW, and we're ready to cement our spot in the top 4, and looking forward to turning the halfway mark at 4-1. If we can make that happen, I think our season's really well set up. No guarantees we get home finals or anything like that, but I think pretty much, unless something wheels fell off in the back end of the year, you could feel pretty confident that we're going to make the finals. It's just we want to go a little bit further than last year with that one point heartbreaker to North. And I don't want to play North in the finals. I really don't, because we can't beat them.
Well, they had their first loss today, North.
Yeah, they did. I couldn't believe they lost that one. That was an absolute choke. I don't know what happened there, but no good. I want to get Spud on the Roll of Honour too, mate. Spud, as
yeah,
I like to call her, the Sermonator. I do like to call her the Sermonator, but we couldn't.
She was in my votes.
We
Not
yeah,
and at the
you
time,
got her in the
it's hand
votes.
on heart, I did not know she was planned for the show at that particular point in time. So
No.
I said those votes as soon as the game was up. But look, this game is certainly a really important one because, and I don't want to be too dismissive of some of the other teams in the comp, but the D's are obviously the top team in the comp and have been for 12 months now. But then as I cast an eye forward to our fixture for the remainder of the year, we play the Bombers, who are currently sitting in 7th, the Dockers 10th, Collingwood 12th, the Tigers in 8th, and then Hawthorn at the very end of the season obviously just got smacked and it kind of cellar dwells at the moment.
Can't
So
wait for that one.
we don't necessarily have a really strong set of opposition for the back end of the season. And so a game like this, off the back of the North Melbourne game, and really the only thing that did us in there was we didn't play a full 4 quarters. If we need to display the win, lose or draw, we need to play the right way and play it out in its entirety this weekend this Thursday against the D's. And hopefully that's the case. Hopefully we can bank a win in the process and snap that winning streak of theirs.
While you were talking, I was just queuing up my the Terminator music because I'm trying to make the Sermonator a thing, and I know the club is calling her Spud and all that, but I'm still working on getting the Sermonator to get up. But maybe one day, maybe we'll get her back in a week or two. I want to get Brooke Plummer back on the show as well, and we might even put the call out to Kate Darby. She's another Hoop Show favourite too. So we'll see how we go. Mate, I think that's it. I think that'll do for another Sunday night episode of the Hoop Show. Mate, you've been awesome as always. We know you're an absolute star at this thing and you're a pro. But thanks to everyone who's been watching. Thanks to everyone who's currently still online and has been watching the whole way through or at least joined us in the last little bit. We really appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber, please think about jumping on board. We just had a little milestone over the week. We ticked over 800, that makes us happy. That puts a smile on our face. So, if you could give us a bit of a like and a subscribe, that'd be great. Mate, I think that's it for us. Thanks again to everyone. Thanks to you, Paul. Don't forget to stay Geelong strong, everyone.
Up the Lions.
Go Cats. Up the Lions. Go the Pies, I reckon. Go the Pies. See you, everyone. Take care.
See ya.